Views on the midterm elections.
Another political analyst will join us today to make sense of the results is Professor Richard Hidarian. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning. Naabutan ako ng umaga yata. Medyo 1.5 hour ako naghintay. It's good that you remember me.
Susulit na namin yung oras mo. But let's focus on the midterm results and the future of the Marcoses and the Dutertes. Your reaction on the recent results. 98% na ang election returns from the COMELEC. Anong reaction mo dito sa ating resulta?
Well, I mean, una-una, I think we have to be humble enough and look at bakit yung marami sa mga surveys hindi nila nakuha ng tama ito. In fact, yung pinaka-accurate kong nakitang pre-election survey, actually hindi isang survey, isang consumer sentiment survey na galing sa isang malaking korporasyon. In fact, they almost exactly got the top 5. Number 2 or 3 din si Bam Aquino sa kanila, at top 5 si Kiko Pangilinan. So for me, that raises some big questions dun sa methodologies at assumptions ng mga iba't ibang surveys. Alam natin, historically, pagdating sa mga surveys, nahihirapan talaga tayo dun sa issue ng Senate. Like marami tayong mga surprising number ones, whether it's Robin Hood Padilla or whether it was back in 2016 elections. Alam ko marami tayo na surprise. But this one is quite a big change. Now, especially for Bam Aquino and for Kiko Pangilinan, extremely overperforming sila. Also with Marcoleta, also very well performing. Yung kay Bongo naman, medyo alam naman natin sa mga surveys nakita natin. Clearly kay Erwin Tulfo, mukhang because you have two Tulfos here, it did affect eventually numbers of Erwin Tulfo, and it looks like in the end it didn't work for both of them. So actually, ang gusto kong makita dito, and this is something we didn't see back in 2022, is yung exit polls. Kasi doon sa exit poll mo makikita bakit ang layo yung mga pre-election surveys mga 2 weeks ago doon sa nangyari ngayon. So for instance, yung minention ko na consumer sentiment, doon sa consumer sentiment na yan, na nakita ko, up to 20%, in fact lampas sa 20% ng voters, especially Gen Z and millennials, ay nagdi-decide doon sa final day mismo ng election. So ibig sabihin, hindi yan na-capture ng mga pre-election surveys na natapos ng late April, when in fact way into May's second week of May, nagdi-decide pa yung iba dun sa mga 12 choices nila, if ever 12 ang pinili nila. And then for the first time, I think, really dominant yung millennial and Gen Z vote together, more than 50% easily. So because wala tayong very authoritative exit polls ng 2022, I think understudied pa rin itong voter sentiments ng mga Gen Z, and to a certain degree, I would say younger millennials. Kasi mga older millennials katulad ko or katulad natin, pinag-aralan na yan ng 2016 elections. They were very decisive in helping Lenny edge out BBM. So that's one thing. But clearly, I think the story here is admin underperformance. I think bugbog sarado talagang alyansa ni President BBM from both sides, because when it comes to the so-called liberal opposition or progressive opposition, January parang grabe yung attack nila pagdating dun sa issue ng budget ng administration, yung issue ng etong ayuda ba na politicized. Some members of the liberal opposition even call it the worst budget ever. I think nag-stick yan because it made it very hard for the administration to criticize, for instance, Duterte's on Farmali issue, corruption issue, etc. And then katulad ng minention niyang guest niyo, we had a consolidation of support, talagang straight PDP laban voting, and that definitely helps explain bakit si Bongo ay number 1, si Bato, vast majority of Mindanao rallied behind him, and why he's number 3, number 4 even. And then nakita natin halos lahat ng mga pro-Duterte candidates, they saw a massive bump in their numbers, although Philip Salvador, for instance, didn't perform as well as some people expected. But nevertheless, overall, Duterte-aligned candidates are doing well, and we may have not only 1 or 2, we may have up to 4, if not 5, Duterte-friendly candidates, probably 5 Duterte-friendly candidates coming in. So the story here is really the underperformance of the administration, and accordingly the good performance of Duterte-aligned folks. But I think the big surprise is how well the progressive opposition has done. Akbayan number 1. Nakita ko dun sa ibang survey, 1% lang ang projection for Akbayan, barely 1 seat. Now they're 7-8%, almost sure na 3 seats. Mamamayan Liberal, not even 1% or 0.5%. Now they may get at least 1 seat. So all sorts of opposition did very well, whether it's the progressive pink opposition or whether it's the Duterte opposition. But I think the Duterte opposition has done way better than even perhaps they expected, and yung idea na having two candidates in is not enough. Let's get as many as possible. That's going to have major implications because pagdating sa Senado, it's a numbers game. Forget about conviction of Sara Duterte if there's a preponderance of evidence. Baka trial man lang, hindi mangyari. Kung marami dyan ay either centrist or pa-safe na mga candidates or in this case, very Duterte-aligned candidates. And I think one thing I want to also add is mukhang hindi nangyari as much yung tactical voting. Because sa aking palagay, whether it's, it's Binay, Abalos, Manny Pacquiao, I think these candidates could have done better, perhaps even edged out Amy Marcos, maybe even edged out Lito Lapid or Camille Villar, because Camille Villar and Amy were endorsed by Sara Duterte. So clearly, alam natin where they will stand on issues come the trial or impeachment of Sara Duterte issue. I don't think there was as much tactical voting. Abalos saw some improvement in his numbers after the Lenny endorsement, but I think it was not strong enough to create really this kind of tactical alliance to make sure that not only Bam and Kiko get in, but also you want to make sure that Pacquiao, Abalos, Binay, who would more likely vote along the preference of the president, if not the genuine opposition, for them to edge out the like of Amy Marcos or Camille Villar. So those are also interesting other factors na dapat pag-aralan natin.
Richard, I'll throw you a question, but the question is, you have Bam, of course, and Kiko. They took the spots of, sabi nila, supposedly Revilla and Nancy Binay, and we'll take a look at how they did in the North. But before that, we continue with you. We'll just go on and get some updates.
From Bril Montalvo.
Yeah, from Bril Montalvo. Now, despite being surrounded with issues, Duterte clan continues to dominate Davao City. Former President Rodrigo Duterte is now in a commanding spot to reclaim the city's top post, while his son Baste is also issuing to be vice mayor. To give us updates from Davao, we have with us News 5 correspondent Bril Montalvo. Bril, ano ang sitwasyon, Bril?
Yes, nandito pa rin tayo ngayon sa Sangguniang Panglungsod ng Davao City kung saan kanina ngang alas 9:12 ay nagpatuloy ang bilangan ng mga boto dito ng mga Board of Canvassers para sa bilang Pilipino 2025. At sa ngayon ay nasa 99.40% na natra-transmit ito ngang mga boto galing
hindi
sa
nangyari
iba't
yung
ibang
tactical
polling
voting, guys.
ng lungsod.
Sobrang
at nasa
5 pro Duterte ang nakapasok eh.
50% na lang
Imagine,
ang hinihintay para makumpletong
Pumasok mo si Amy,
100%
si Camille, si Marcoleta, si
itong mga
Bato, Bongo.
I
mean, almost kalahati ng mga nanalo eh, Duterte aligned. That's huge. That's huge, guys. Kaya yun yung story na dapat titignan. Hindi lang yung panalo ni Bam Aquino or Kiko Pangilinan.
2025. At sa ngayon,
parang sa dami mga DDS na mga kapasok na to mention yung mga nasa loob na medyo trapo-trapuhan. Baka wala man lang trial ang mangyari dito. Kaya very mixed ito very mixed itong resulta na ito.
Duterte ang nagwagi dito.
At yun pa, mga 70-80% itong nanalo ng Duterte sa Davao.
Hanggang councilors ay panalo lahat. Walang nanalo from Pima Nograles ni Isamana. So,
hindi nangyari tactical voting, guys.
Duterte dito sa Davao
kasi may
City.
chance matalo sila Amy at saka si Camille.
One quick question lang before we go. Bril, anong plano ngayon ng Duterte camp given that former
Kaya
President
talunin
Duterte
yung mga yan eh. They just needed the million or so
pero
votes.
wala siya ngayon sa Pilipinas because he is in The Hague. Mayroon ka ba narinig kung ano yung gagawin nila?
Sabi nga ni Vice President Sara Duterte kahapon doon sa press conference pagkatapos ng kanyang pagboto sa Daniel R. Aguinaldo National High School ay kakausapin para nila ang kanilang foreign attorney at mga Filipino attorney para sa arrangement ng oath-taking sa magiging oath-taking ni former President Rodrigo Duterte bilang alkalde dito sa lungsod. At sabi din ng COMELEC na hindi disqualified ito ngang si former President Rodrigo Duterte at if ever mag-o-oath na at iproproklama na ang mga mananalo kung hindi man kasi nga nakakulong si former President Rodrigo Duterte sa dahil kung hindi
Isa
pa
pa
niya
yan pag may
mapapangkona
nangyari sa
ang
kanya
kanyang
before
pagka-alkalde
elections.
ay ang magiging acting mayor ay ang vice mayor dito na mananalo kung saan ang leading ngayon ang kanyang running mate at incumbent mayor nga si Davao City Mayor Baste Duterte.
So safe to say, ang magiging mayor si Baste and ang vice mayor will be appointed from the first councilor ata, Bril, no?
Isa pang Duterte.
Tama ka nga dyan, Diego,
Rodrigo
no?
II.
Ang magiging acting vice mayor is si Duterte din kasi ang nangunguna dito sa councilor is si Rigo Duterte, ang anak ni Congressman Pulong Duterte.
All right, thank you very much, News 5 correspondent Bril Montalvo. Richard, let's get back to you.
Yeah. What was your question?
Richard,
Yes, I mean, Davao, no surprise. I think Rodrigo II, Duterte II, yung number one councilor. Yeah.
wala nga si Digong, but we still have a Duterte, no? But before we go there, I'd like to ask you quickly about BAM. We were looking at the numbers kung paano nalaglag possibly yung dalawang bets from the admin, and we're taking a look at the numbers of BAM. Malakas ang votes na nakuha niya from the Solid North, which is, well, kind of surprising. So ano take mo dito? Did you think he ate into several votes from the admin?
Well, I think, I mean, to be honest, I was slightly critical. Sabi ko, mukhang masyadong pa-safe. Kasi kung titingnan itong election na to, very positive messaging lahat. Halos walang umaatake sa isa't isa eh. You know, kumpara doon sa in-expect mo, whether itong issue ng West Philippine Sea, itong issue ng ICC, Sara impeachment, kung titingnan mo, for instance, si Bam Aquino, even Kiko Pangilinan, for instance, I'm not sure very strong yung kanilang positioning on some of these contentious issues. But nevertheless, because of their branding and also because of their, I would say, calibrated positioning, I think ang nangyari dito is the kurut-kurut strategy apparently works. No? So, sa isang banda, nakita natin may mga Marcos supporters na sinasabi nila, at the end of the day, kailangan natin ng fiscalizers, at the end of the day, kailangan natin ng independently minded opposition candidates, at pasok sa kanila si Kiko at si Bam Aquino. So, more ganun ang tingin sa kanila na both Bam and Kiko sa tingin nila ay hindi maging tuta ng mga Dutertes or mga factotum nila pagdating dyan sa Senado. So, they're more hopeful na mag-fiscalize sila dun sa, for instance, issue ni Sara impeachment. But of course, they're gonna also fiscalize BBM because trabaho din nila yan as incoming senators. So, I think yun yung isang factor. But at the same time, ang dami natin nakita sa, hindi lang sa Mindanao, but iba't ibang parte ng bansa, dun sa sample ballot, straight PDP laban, and then Bam and Kiko. So it looks like suddenly, naging swing voters, swing candidates sila, and both sides sumuporta sa kanila. So even though, admittedly, ako nung una medyo critical ako doon, I think because yung overall landscape is, lahat medyo pa safe, very positive ang messaging. Like for instance, kasama namin kanina sa kabila si Senator Bongo. In the case of Senator Bongo, I mean, yes, I mean, may mga sinabi siya dun sa ICC issue, but overall, focus lang siya dun sa issue ng basically healthcare, yung kanyang mga malasakit initiatives, and kung titignan mo si Bam Aquino, focus siya sa issue ng edukasyon, Kiko naman, focus siya sa issue ng food security, although medyo, sa tingin ko, medyo marami yung kanyang food vlogs, but apparently it works. Do you get what I'm saying? Parang lahat mabait eh. Actually, hindi sila nag-attack masyado sa isa't isa. Even BBM, nung una niyang speech sa Lawag, napaka-strong yung kanyang rhetoric. Dito sa aking mga kandidato, walang sangkot sa korupsyon, walang tuta ng China. And yet, in the end, what we saw here is, pagdating sa iba't ibang candidates, what we saw here is that they were actually, supportive. Wait lang guys, biglang nakat yata ako. Ano ba nangyari dyan? One second, guys. May hindi yata natawa sa akin. Okay, I think I have to wrap this up. Yun ang sinasabi ko, guys. Actually, medyo mixed ito eh. Like sa isang banda, sobrang tuwan-tuwa tayo kasi maraming matino nakapasok but ang dami rin nakapasok ng kabila eh. So I think this is gonna change really the texture and the dynamics of the race. So tignan natin saan papunta ito. That's gonna be very interesting. Anyway, kailangan ko yata matulog ng konti kasi balik ako mamaya. I'll have other interviews na back-to-back natin. Thank you so much again, guys, for joining us. I don't know what happened here. Biglang na-cut tayo. Baka hindi na natuwa.
Find out how the people voted.
That's right.
Because even the COMELEC does not have data on, they have data on turnout and how the people voted. But then the demographics, wala eh. People are saying, it's the youth vote. Wala tayong mapanghahawakan. But then, and then people are blaming surveys, no? But then again, yung surveys naman are really just snapshots
That's right.
of the day and the time it was taken. What happened after 2 or 3 weeks in the run-up to the elections, we don't know. And as you've discussed earlier, Bam and Kiko must have focused on the ground. Totoo yun. But also in what they also won because of what they did not do. Like when Duterte was arrested, I don't remember them issuing any
Talking about
statement.
it.
So that's a very strategic.
Kumbaga hindi sila nakisawsaw.
Yeah, that's a very strategic move. And also, I think that's also a station, the mere fact that they're maybe to the top 5, of the fact that people are also disappointed with the race between the president and the vice president.
Parang nagka-umay factor.
Yeah, exactly.
You want it going back to the food. Let's talk about food. Let's talk about jobs.
Issues, yeah.
Issue-based.
And in a way, it reflects what the people saw as the concerns as has been pointed out by polls, di ba? Kaya nung lumalabas yung mga polls on what is do our voters want to focus on? But hindi nagmamatch. But eventually, it sort of resonated with each other.
Kasi yun nga po kanina nabanggit ko na rin sa population. Sinasabi po nila more than 50% ay binubuo po ng Gen Z, mga millennials, sa mga younger voters, ika nga. And then we also saw different surveys from the universities na ibang-iba siya doon sa survey na nakikita natin from December to 25 from the mga leading survey firms like Pulse Asia, SWS.
But it's more accurate.
Oo, so parang ang nakita natin ngayon, yung mga university surveys, parang yun yung nakikita natin na lumabas dito sa result na yan. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, totoo yan, no? Ako, when these surveys were coming out, in this election, sabi ko, yan ang tanda na baka they won't make it. You know why? Because in the past, that's kumbaga parang outliers ang university surveys, no? In Miriam Defensor Santiago, I'm old enough, no? In 1992, siya yung top sa mga surveys, and the NP was also top during the 2022 election. So, so eventually
Hindi
it
nila
played out.
nakita.
Oo. But then, it's difficult to say definitively if the youth vote actually carried them. Kasi nga wala tayong
Stronger data at this point?
Yes, at this point. And hindi natin makikita yun kasi wala namang I've long advocated this, no? Na sana yung nag-uusap yung data ng registered voters at saka yung turnout.
Yes.
Pwede daw. Kasi mas mabibigyan ng demographics
So you can
in the way
understand.
they do it in other countries.
Yes.
Diba? At saka may exit polls din sila.
Yeah.
Yun. So, kasi when you do that, then it helps a lot in terms of our democracy. Why? Because it it incentivizes politicians to cater to the needs of certain demographics. No? Kasi nakikita nila. No, na ito mahina tayo dito o ano.
Yeah.
So in the next electoral cycle, they will sort of respond to their concerns. Pero ngayon kasi walang ganun.
Yeah, in the absence of data kasi ang nangyari is analytics came into play, yung interpretations of several pundits. And one lumilitaw po na interpretation is the breakup of the Uniteam created a third entity which is supposedly the unknown opposition.
Yeah.
Undetermined opposition. At that time, so Prof, what do you think now with the results? Is there still an undetermined opposition?
Yeah, kasi people got confused na as to who the opposition really
That's
is.
right.
No? And if Bam and Kiko were surprises in these elections, then we're seeing hope that in the next few months we're going to see a genuine opposition.
Plus Risa is still, Senator Risa is still there.
Yes.
So let's get, I think it's also worth noting yung local elections natin. We've seen a lot of, ang tawag dito, yung mga names, familiar names na bumalik at saka na re-elect lang ulit. How significant is this dito po sa ating midterm elections?
It's very easy for incumbents to actually, especially at the local level, to be re-elected because of their resources and networks. However, if you do not win, despite the fact that you're incumbent, then something must have happened that really disappointed your base.
Dagdagan po natin ng data, yung ating bato. Let's bring in first
Pauline Versosa. Ano meron tayo dyan, Pauline?
Oo, kanina we were talking about how Bam Aquino was a big surprise for everyone kasi sa mga survey, hindi naman siya usually pasok sa Magic 12, but here he is at the number 2 spot with over 16 million of votes. So tignan natin yung mga probinsya na na-dominate ni Bam Aquino. Taking a look at these vote-rich provinces. So itong top 10 vote-rich provinces, actually lahat ng hindi kabilang sa Mindanao, and also except for Cebu, nag-top 1 po si Bam Aquino dyan. So taking a look, Cavite, Bam Aquino got over 700,000 votes. Bulacan, Pangasinan, Laguna, Negros Occidental, lahat po yan, number 1 po si Bam Aquino. So that makes up that's why he has over 16 million votes. Kung titignan natin, yung ibang vote-rich provinces, sa Cebu, where there was a turnout of more than 3 million voters, si Senator Bongo naman po ang nag-top niyan with 1,400,000 votes. So that's why also he's enjoying the number 1 lead sa ating senatorial race. May gusto ba kayong tignan na particular area?
Yeah, Pauline, let's take a look at him kay Bato, how he performed doon sa corridor na yan. It's because given naman yung Southern, di ba, Pauline, sa kanya yan But we didn't expect him also to be number 3. He was in the range of 6 to 8 So, saan siya namayagbag?
Oo, so kung titignan lang natin yung vote-rich provinces, well, in Luzon, or yung L2L corridor na tinatawag natin, malayo si Senator Bato de la Rosa Ragged. Number 8 siya, di ba?
I would have expected na doon siya bumawi.
Oo.
Pero,
so, tignan na lang natin.
Ano yung nagdala sa kanya na lugar?
Yeah. Actually, we can compare it also, sa kanyang, natin? Dito ba ito, si Senator Bato de la Rosa. So, in 2019, 5th siya. He was the 5th leading candidate with 18 million votes. If you look at this heat map,
halos lahat.
Yung gitna lang ng Pilipinas, yung bansa, So this is, I believe, the area of former Vice President Leni Robredo, mga Camarines Sur yan. Diyan lang siya hindi nakapasok ng top 12. But, taking a look at 2025 where he's now sitting at 3rd place, parang umonti pa nga yung boto niya sa Norte, diba? So, I guess what we're reading here is that mas nag-solidify lang din talaga yung mga boto niya dito sa South, sa Mindanao.
Parang almost the same siya sa Mindanao, Pauline, at nabawasan pa nga sa Luzon, Balan, Susun. Pero saan siya kumuha? Number 3
Pumalat siya ng konti doon. Sa bandang Luzon, may konting Luzon.
Magandang case study ito.
Also, kanina yung nabanggit ko si Congressman Marcoleta.
Ayun, oo.
Because we didn't see that coming. Nakita natin siya sa mga senatorial survey tracker natin. Mababa siya, di ba? Although, may mga particular issues na pinag-uusapan na nagte-trending siya. Go ahead, please.
Also, well, we do know si Rodante Marcoleta, talaga namang based on surveys, umangat yung kanyang numbers nung naaresto po si former President Rodrigo Duterte, right? He was very vocal about it. And ito na nga, it shows dito sa ating heat map na nag-consolidate yung suporta dito sa South o sa Mindanao. We're seeing, sige, check natin, no? In areas like, check natin yung Davao del Sur, na bailiff ng mga Duterte. Number 3, si Rodante Marcoleta. 600,000 votes. Yan po ay sa Davao del Sur. Dito naman sa Davao del Norte, ganun din. Pang-apat si Marcoleta. So, yun na yung sinasabi din ng mga analysts, itong PDP laban candidates, ever since yung arrest ni former President, they noticed this consolidation of support, solidifying ng mga Duterte supporters, mga DDS, di ba? And
kasi one common goal nila dyan, pag nagka-campaign sila, protect Sara.
Protect
diba?
Sara.
Kasi sila yung mga uupo sa Senado.
Actually po yung last 3 clicks mo nga, puro PDP laban
Correct.
Diba?
Pero sa sa NCR, may yung boto ni Marcoleta sa NCR? Ni Congressman Marcoleta?
Nasa Pampanga.
Metro Manila.
Meron siya
Meron siya.
I know. I think it's quite a significant number sa Metro Manila.
So he got
Okay,
Metro
let's
Manila.
just check
It's a given kasi sa Mindanao. Pero meron din pala sa NCR.
NCR.
There you go. But I think that's from also in block voting ng INC, no? In area. But
I
I
think
would
the
expect
INC
if he would have
votes,
won, si Congressman Marcoleta,
DDS vote talaga to.
at least nasa 10 to 11 siya.
Oo,
But
number 6.
he's in the number 6 spot. Ayan, go, Papolin.
Okay, so we're looking at Metro Manila. Yung top 12 candidates for Metro Manila. Nanguna si Bongo, second si Bam Aquino. In areas like Caloocan, itong nga si Marcoleta, actually medyo malayo-layo siya, nasa 8th spot siya. This is for Caloocan. Pero nagbabago to, per city.
Per city.
Pwede natin i-check ang Quezon City, which is also a vote-rich city.
One of the highest vote-rich cities, no?
So, ito na nga po, Bam Aquino leading that. Kiko Pangilinan as well. Si Marcoleta, medyo mataas din, He got 287,000 votes or 32% ng mga boto sa Quezon City.
Yan daw.
Nakikita natin trend, no? Puli sa mga pinapakita mo. Aquino, Bongo, naglilipat-lipat lang.
Yes, oo. Tama yan, So, ito na nga, as you can see, vote-rich provinces. But I also wanted to show yung mga key races sa local positions naman. Sa Camarines Sur, si Leni Robredo has just become the first female mayor ng Naga City.
Almost 70%.
She got 68,000 votes. Landslide win. Oo, against yung kanyang mga rivals na sila Tuts de Quiros. Ayan, so congratulations. Naiproklama na rin si former VP. So ayan, ibang races din na tinitignan natin. Kanina nabanggit na nga sa Davao, ang magiging mayor niyan, none other than si former President Rodrigo Duterte at landslide win din. Si Nograles 65,000 kumpara sa 500,000. But syempre yung binabantayan din diyan yung vice mayoral race
and yung congressional seat.
And the congressional seat. So
kasi before the election started, nagkaroon ng, di ba yung video na kumala tungkol kay Pulong Duterte, yung bar fight?
But it looks like it didn't affect him. Kasi mataas rin, alam ko yung last
Tambak rin yung kay
Pulong. Ayan.
Okay, so hanapin lang natin yan.
Sa anong district?
Ito kasi, so we have so much data here. Pero ito, pagdating sa first, sa city of Davao, Paulo Duterte, landslide win din yan. Versus kay
4 times more votes
as a representative.
Alright,
So,
sige.
kahit anong issue
Tumakbo pa na 200 votes.
It's expected naman. That's their basis.
It's not really surprising.
Thank you so much, Pauline. We'll get back to you for another round of data. But meantime, balikan po na natin yung ating mga matatalinong analysts na talagang hinihimay po yung naging resulta po ng ating election. Back here in the studio, kasama po natin si Professor Jean Franco. And of course, nabalikan din po natin si Richard Heydarian.
Pinaalis yata ako. May hindi ata natuwa sa sinabi. Bigla ako na-cut to na. No. I mean, I was saying, di ba, yun yung ironic na actually it was very positive messaging campaign kumpara dun sa pwede mo ma-imagine na sitwasyon. I mean, after yung ICC arrest ni Digong, you could have imagined na yun yung magiging defining issue and everyone will lay out their positions and very polarizing. Wala. West Philippine Sea issue, I was expecting na that could have been a big issue kung saan sabihin nila pro-China candidates ito, Team Philippines to. Hindi nangyari. Senator Tolentino kind of tried to pull that off towards the end, but it was too late for that. So I think basically what's interesting here is that usually pag very toxic, polarizing, negative campaigning, it tends to sometimes support the opposition kung medyo unpopular yung incumbent. And I think that's the case with BBM, right? But here, lahat nag-positive, medyo pa-cute, pa-safe, and it still favored the two versions of the opposition. But I think they...
Kailan, nawala po.
Okay, we'll fix that line first, okay, with our technical team before we move on with our discussion. Hello?
Okay na. Richard, go
Yeah,
ahead.
definitely. So, ako, for me, I think tama yung sinabi niyo kanina na meron na tayong third force. I mean, sa isang banda, you can imagine both Chel Jokno and Leila de Lima. I think ML Party will at least get one seat. You have Percy Sandania who will be back also in the Congress, the person who sponsored the first impeachment complaint. So you're going to have very strong characters dun sa Kongreso who may even be part of the prosecution team if magkakaroon ng trial. So you're going to have very interesting situation there with Chel Jokno, with Leila de Lima. At the same time, tignan din natin how the Risa, Kiko, or Bam trio, right? Paano sila magpupush ng kanilang positioning? Kasi at the end of the day, nasa gitna ka pa rin ng traditional politicians and Duterte-aligned politicians. So I think third force talaga ang mga pink or progressive candidates in this case, but how they're gonna position themselves on different issues, yan ang magdi-define ng anong direction na maging hidwa ng BBM at saka mga Duterte camp. And to be honest, as things stand, I won't still be surprised. If you were to bet, you will still bet on a Duterte comeback for 2028. Because if Sara Duterte manages to even avoid the trial, forget about getting convicted, and Bongo is now #1 and projected to get, 24-25 million votes, you can imagine very strong yung momentum ng mga Duterte-aligned candidates heading into 2028, just as President Marcos Jr. is gonna scratch his head and wonder, saan siya nakakulang? Clearly nakakulang si BBM in terms of communications. After the ICC issue, he didn't take a strong stance. He didn't make a clear positioning. Yung kanyang mga kandidato, puro mga safe candidates who also didn't, stand up for the president and on different issues. And in the end, President Marcos Jr. is facing the possibility of becoming a lame duck president unless he really steps up and leverages whatever power he still has as the commander-in-chief and the president in his remaining years.
Pero Richard, now that the dust is medyo settled, you mentioned it na rin. Sabi mo na nga, yung sa composition sa Congress with regards to the impeachment. I'd like to ask you about the composition ngayon of the Senate, given that we have these winners, although unproclaimed, with the current 12 that we have. Ano nakikita mong possible numero kung nagkaroon, if magkaroon ng impeachment trial?
Yeah, yun nga. Like, I'm now even questioning magkakaroon ba ng, yung forthwith, ilang buwan na tayo, hindi pa rin na dictionary yan. Diba?
Granting na meron.
Papunta na ako sa Oxford, magtatanong ako sa kanila kung anong definition ng forthwith. No, I'm look at it. So 5 mukhang papasok na Duterte-aligned, right? Kasama dyan, people like Amy Marcos, likely who are very strongly in favor of Sara Duterte and who will really, really rally in favor of Sara Duterte. I'm sure part of Amy Marcos feels she owes this also to Sara Duterte's endorsement, the 11th hour endorsement. And then, dun sa mga nandun na sa loob, sa 12, you could easily say, at least kalate sa kanila ay not willing to really ruffle the feathers of the Duterte camp when they're looking at the Dutertes doing so well and them also having their own ambitions for 2028. So you can easily see na hindi lang, di ba, 8 ang kailangan ng mga Dutertes, di ba, to basically make it sure na Sara is safe. I can imagine even more than 8 will be on their side. So much so that I'm even wondering what there will be a trial. So, kaya nga mahalaga na hindi maging complacent yung third force. And also administration. Administration, obviously, they're gonna lick their wounds for quite some time. Pero dun sa genuine opposition and pink, they shouldn't also become quite complacent. Yes, very good ang performance ni Bam, very good ang performance ni Kiko, but it's a numbers game. Ilan lang sila? 3 lang sila. So I think that's why, as much as people are elated and excited about yung itong opening ng political space, I think there should be also some realism about how the momentum is really now, the wind is in the sails of the Dutertes. We saw in the US with Trump, we see it here in Europe. The populist comeback story is something you can never underestimate.
Well, I want to go back to Professor Jean and talk about local politics naman po, no? Nakita po natin sa Las Piñas, nawala na po doon ngayon, no? For the first time in this
Numbers
year.
game yan, guys.
Since 1992, wala pong uupo, no? Ngayon na Villar sa Kongreso. And your thoughts on that po?
I think it has something to do with the fact that a lot of TikTok and memes were actually spreading, no, in the run-up to the elections regarding, for instance, mga rants ni Senator Cynthia Villar.
It's the church, no problem.
Yeah, and this is something that must have turned off even their former supporters. And I guess that's also good. I mean, that people turned out against those who they think are really, you know, bullying their areas and sort of having some sort of a family being so hegemonic in that particular area. So,
Cynthia, guys, natalo si Cynthia.
It means that may hangganan din, kumbaga. So,
Bakit?
Tagal nga lang.
Bawa ba tayo?
Pero other cities like sa Manila, nakita po natin ngayon pagbabalik ni Isko Moreno Dumagoso doon, winning by about 300,000 votes, diba? From the incumbent si Hani Lacuna. Ano naman po basa natin doon?
Prime water,
you know,
parang halos lahat ng kakampi
we
niya.
cannot discount the fact that when Isko was running, even when he was running as a presidential candidate, he really packaged himself as anak ng Manila.
Yeah.
You know? And in local elections, it's very important, no, that you know, you're not just a newcomer or Johnny or Jing come lately in our locality. Very, yung sense of identity na galing ka talaga dun sa area. And especially, si Isko is from Tondo, di ba? And Tondo is a vote-rich area. Ilan ang districts niyan within Manila. No?
Yeah.
And, I don't know, this is anecdotal, no? For yung mga naririnig ko from Manila, people of